Hi friends, and welcome. On today's adventure, I'm going to get a little payback. That is to say, I'm going to get a chance to pay back a debt of a sort, a little quid pro quo if you will. You see, our good friend and pro staffer, Dan Fox, has guided Tina and I on adventures all over North America, from way down south in Texas to way out west in Wyoming and right back here in Michigan as well. Well, today I'm going to turn the tables on him. I'm going to get a chance to guide him on a fall bear and fishing trip. Now, Dan has been bear hunting before, but he has never been bear hunting the way I do it. He's never taken archery gear and got right up close, set right on top of him, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be feet, not yards away, and we're basically going to have just a stick. It's kind of an intense and intimate hunt, if you will. And I have to tell you, we don't have a firearm along, not even for the recovery. So the need to get it right the first time, yeah, well, let's just say it's kind of important, especially to me, because I'm the guy that's got to go find that bear if he should get one. Hey, I'm your host, Kyle Randall. This is my Wilderness Journal, and we're going out looking for some shadows shifting down in the forest right now.
Like the first colors of fall, it was Dan's first time in a tree stand with a crossbow, so we decided to try a practice shot or two.
Take your time. There's no recoil, just squeeze it. Top set of lines, very top ones. You're 2 inches right, yeah.
Now all Dan needed was a bear.
I need to shorten this just a tad.
But unfortunately, for the first couple of hours, we didn't see any. A few chipmunks, the odd whiskey jack, but nothing stirred down in the bush. We kept watching up the road where we'd seen bears coming from on our trail cameras, but no bears. By the time the sun set on our first day, all we had seen were the aforementioned chipmunks and a couple of birds, and all we'd heard, other than a few small noises, was my stomach growling. And all that did was make me wish I had my apple back.
Nothing, not a bear of any kind. We sat there for 4 hours and never saw a bear, never heard a bear. The little critters did a pretty good job to keep us entertained, and we did hear a few sounds that we couldn't quite identify, enough to make us strain to see what might be moving in the bush, but we never did see a bear. We just have to get up in the morning, go do some fishing, and then in the afternoon we'd head back out and try it again.
Well, you look hunt ready now.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll see.
Well, Dan certainly looked ready, but I wondered how well he'd handle sitting so still for so long when it's so quiet. Just the chirping of a chipmunk or a bird flying in and out. That's what it's like to be on a bear stand. It's incredibly quiet, and you have to be still. Bears don't have very good eyesight, but their hearing and their nose are phenomenal. And wild bears, once they detect something they're uncomfortable with, they'll just ghost off. They'll leave. You'll never see them. They can look at you. You'll see them walk right in and stare and not be sure. But if they smell you or hear something, especially something metal, you can forget ever seeing them out in the open.
The first 2 hours that second evening went by so slow, I was certain I could see the leaves changing colors. Yeah, there was nothing. A couple of birds, a couple of more chipmunks, but no bears. Nothing moving in the bush, and nothing coming up the trail like our cameras had shown they'd done so many times. All we could do was what we were doing. We just have to sit it out.
And for the next half hour, it was more of the same. Scan the bush, watch some ground squirrels, look up the road, and then, basically repeat. And then, just before 7 o'clock, something up on the 2-track, there was movement. It was a rabbit. This snowshoe hare was bouncing its way up the 2-track, That is until Dan moved his head a little too much. Still, at least it was something different. Friends, if you can't be alone with yourself and your thoughts, if you can't sit still and just watch and appreciate being part of nature, yeah, you're probably not gonna like bear hunting. Another 20 minutes ticked slowly by, and then another movement up on the 2-track. Only this wasn't a rabbit. This was a bear, a big old bear. This was definitely a shooter, a 250, maybe 300, maybe a little better pound boar, and he was walking right up the logging trail just like we had on cameras. Now all we needed was for this bear to get in here without spooking and give Dan a shot. This big boy strolled right in there like it was his personal dining room, just the way the mature, dominant male bear'll do at a bait site. He was already well under 20 yards inside Dan's wheelhouse. Now all Dan needed was for him to turn and give him a decent shot. You don't want to rush this. You don't want to spook this bear. You want him to settle down, to get comfortable. He's not going anywhere as long as Dan doesn't mess this up. All Dan needs to do is just be still, just a few more moments. And then the bear saw us. He didn't know what we were. Like I told you earlier, their eyesight isn't great, but I suspect he was thinking, hey, there's another bear up that tree, and I better go over there and let him know just whose kitchen this really is. This big boy looked around a little bit, kind of checking things out, and then he strode right over up underneath Dan's tree. I mean 5, 6, 7 yards tops. He walked right in and stared right up at us. Now, friends, if you've ever been on the wrong side of a who's eating who contest, this can get a little unnerving. I don't care who you are. If this bear decides to come up the tree, well, it could be a problem. But he didn't. He just walked right out in front of Dan and sat down, literally sat on the ground and stared at us for a minute, a show of dominance, I'm sure. And then finally, he got up and walked back over to the bait. And when he did, I could hear Dan let out a big old breath. This is intense. This is what it is to bear hunt up close and personal. The bear went over, grabbed the bucket full of caramel corn that Turkey Dave had made us, and began to feed himself. Now all Dan needed was for this bear to give him a decent shot. Just wait till he got down on all fours. But when he did, he was right behind a little cut-off tree, just a little chunk of cedar tree that was blocking Dan's shot. We just have to wait. And wait. And wait. This bear just wouldn't step out. And when he finally did move, he laid down. After what I'm sure must have seemed like an eternity to Dan, the bear finally got up. He was broadside. I whispered, wait for his leg to go forward. Wait for that leg to go forward. And then he sat down again. Friends, if you've never bear hunted, you should know you don't dare shoot at a bear that's sitting or laying down. It closes down your shot angle too much. You just have to wait. And believe me, when the bear is laying right next to the brush, one step away from being gone, well, that waiting is even tougher.
Friends, you need to understand just how stressful this really is for Dan. That bear has already been out in the open far longer than most mature bears will stay, and on top of that, he is laying one short step away from being back in the bush. Dan needs this bear to get up and get sideways, but as long as it's laying down, he doesn't have a shot. We don't like to shoot bears laying down. It narrows the window on their vitals, and on top of that, there's no way we're going to risk a shot with him angling in like that. He needs to get up and get sideways or quartering away a little bit, and until then, I'm just going to count Dan's rising pulse by the bouncing veins in the side of his neck. This is tearing him up.
Friends, imagine if you're Dan, the best bear you've ever seen, the thing you came all the way to Canada to find is laying there 20 short yards away, and there is nothing you can do about it. He could spook at any moment. He keeps sniffing the air, looking around, and at any second, one short hop puts him out of your life forever. And all you can do is just sit there and watch, and every time it looks like he's going to get up, he just shuffles around a little bit. There's no shot. This is so hard. If you're a hunter, if you've ever waited for a deer or a turkey or a bear, anything to turn, if you've ever had to watch a big old buck come across the field knowing at any moment he could turn and go the other way, well, then you have some idea what it feels like to be living under Dan's hat. I could see Dan was getting more and more nervous, and I was doing my best to calm him down. I pointed out the very brave, if not too bright, chipmunk that had worked its way out right next to the bear. Yeah, bears eat chipmunks. They dig them up every spring for their first meals. Anything I could think of to keep his pulse rate down just a little. And then the bear finally got up. Only he was facing dead on. He turned sideways slowly and sat back down. The bear stood again, reached up and grabbed the bucket one more time, but it was just about empty. I didn't tell Dan, but I knew this was going to be over pretty soon. One way or the other, this bear wouldn't stay out in the open much longer. There was some good news. He was finally standing. Bad news? He was standing right back behind that little tree. And then finally,
I'm good. Yeah, that one. Let's listen. Hear it? You hit it. Right in the middle. Listen.
What'd you think of the hit?
A little far back.
He laid down out there for 15 minutes.
And he never, ever would
Turn, and then he's laying down.
give you no decent shot, but finally, old Turkey Dave's caramel corn did him in.
He did.
He went back for one more bite.
Well, this old man here got pretty excited.
Yeah, he got a little stress test, didn't you?
He did.
You ever been that close to a bear before?
I have, but not with a crossbow in my hand.
Yeah.
He come right under the tree. To
Oh, he
begin
come
with.
right up there and took a hard look at
He
you.
took a look. He could smell something wasn't right.
Yeah, he was a little
And he
concerned.
was right below, looking
Yeah,
up.
that's a nice big old bear, buddy.
I was ready to go up a little higher and
Yeah,
let you go
he's
down.
just
and
gonna
take
stand
care
on
of
my
him.
shoulders
I
for
was
you?
gonna let you take care of him.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. That's good of you. I get that a lot, believe it or not. We'll give him a few minutes and then I'll go have a look, all right? Nice job, man. Nice shot.
We'll see, Kyle.
Oh, yeah, we'll get him.
I don't ever count them until I got my hand on them.
Oh, I know. But we'll get him.
Finally, Dan got his shot, but as you saw, it appeared to be just a little far back. I think it's a lot to do with all that tension and waiting, and certainly had to do with my advice to stay away from all those heavy bones in the front leg of a bear. For whatever reason, it was a little far back, but a bear's a lot different than a deer. Their vitals run a lot farther back, and I was still pretty certain that with a little bit of luck, we'd recover this bear.
I pushed my way into the bush. Friends, if you've never done this, in this country where it's been cut before, where the trees have been cut down, it is so thick. You have to literally push your way through the brush. There's no way to run if a bear should charge in here, no tree big enough to climb. You just have to take your time and be careful because it's so easy for a bear to button hook and lay up on his back trail. Trust me, this is every bit as exciting, if not more exciting than the hunt, at least if you're me.
Dan, come here. Look through there. What do you see?
It's a bear.
You keep your eye on him now. I don't see. I'm gonna just ease up there.
Yep.
All right. You just keep an eye on him. If he moves at all, you tell me.
I'll let you know.
I'm pretty sure. Boy, you better not move. There's nowhere to run in here.
They're all small saplings and it's thick.
I'm pretty sure
He's not moving.
he's done, buddy.
All right.
Done.
Oh man.
Danny boy, come here, brother. Get your hand. Oh, am I glad you're carrying this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure thing. Oh, we did some tracking, Kyle.
Well, I'll tell you what. That was a fine. Congratulations. There is your bear.
Thank you, buddy.
Oh, thank the Lord. What a job.
That's a big bear.
Yes, sir. You try. Just try and lift one leg. Go ahead. Just turn him around. How you doing? Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I'll help you. That's all right.
That's a big bear.
What do you think?
That's a bear.
That's a lot of bear, man. Oh, it's I don't know if we can get him around or
You
not.
want to roll him up or what?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, like that. What do you think?
That's a bear.
You happy with that?
Oh man. Thank you.
That is a big old boar now. That
Worked for him.
that's what we come for. Yeah, first night in stand, opening night, we didn't see nothing.
We sat last night all evening long, didn't see a hair.
Nothing. And we sat 2 hours tonight.
Beginning to think it was not going to happen again.
And then Dan says, well, there's something walking up the road.
I'm right down the road.
He walked in like he owned it. That's the way them
and he
big.
come in and laid down on us.
Yeah. Well, first he come over and give you the old stink eye. I thought he was going to come up and ask you what you was doing.
I didn't really like him right down there looking up at me.
A lot of people forget who's hunting who right about
I was
then.
afraid you might have just greased my soles with peanut butter just to have fun with me.
Well, I told you the best bear bait in the world will walk itself to the stand.
What a bear.
You happy, man?
We got a lot of work ahead of us.
Oh, yes. We're going to have to go get a whole lot of help and the stretcher. And
We tracked him in here 150, 200 yards.
he went a little farther than what I expected, but you know what? We got him.
We worked, but we got him. And that makes it all the more worthwhile.
I think so. Hold him up. That is a big old bear now.
Got a big old white nose on him.
Yeah,
Great nose.
big melon. Big boy.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks to Eric and Sue, everybody. Certainly Turkey Dave
This,
there with that caramel corn.
those guys,
But
those
Bear
guys
love
did
that
so
caramel
much.
corn. They
Did
do.
so much. You know, it's a beautiful evening here in northern Ontario. A beautiful evening.
The
huh?
big pike are biting, the big
Yep.
brook trout, the bears are in hand, and it's a beautiful day. You realize you're only a 24-inch walleye away from the slam, the Esnagami slam. You know that, right?
Yeah. Got a nice brook trout, a nice northern, and we need a walleye and a bear.
And a bear? No, all you need is a big old walleye, and you'll be the third person I know of.
Eric and Sue, thank you so much.
I can't imagine it being more fun than this, but if it is and you don't call us, we're going to be offended.
It's just a wonderful place.
Congratulations, Mr. Dan Fox, on a tremendous bear. The wait and the worry, the work, they were all worth it. To get a 300+ pound boar like that in the true wilderness, that doesn't happen every day, friends. And to do it with archery gear up close and personal, and then to have the stress of going to find them like that, well, I'm pretty sure Dan is going to be telling that story to his grandkids for years and years to come. Hey, I want to thank again Eric and Sue Lund, certainly Turkey Dave, Cody, Kyle, everybody up at Esnagami Lodge for all the help and for the great trip. Friends, if you haven't tried it yet, give bear hunting a go. It's a little different than deer hunting. I personally don't believe bears are nearly as dangerous as a lot of people make them out to be, but there is something to be said for pushing through the brush with just a stick in your hand, following an animal that just might be following you. Hey, I hope we see you out there doing it. I hope you're getting a big old boar of your own, and if we do run into you, well, you know we're going to stop and share that cup and a fire, maybe a few bear hunting stories. And if we don't see you out there in the woods, friends, well, then I'll wait for you right back here so we can share another adventure from my Wilderness Journal.